There are storms that don't just tear down buildings, they rip apart humanity's arrogance. There are death tolls caused not by nature, but by silence, delay, and suppression. From Bhola 1970 to Haiyan 2013, from Mitch to Nargis, and even Phong 1881, every storm is an indictment against humankind. No one is innocent, nowhere is safe. Technology cannot save apathy, and history does not forgive those who forget. This is not a weather report. This is the truth you were never taught in school, but one that could kill you in real life. And to understand why disasters may not choose their victims, but we always choose how we die. Let's begin with the first crashing wave. When the ocean no longer stays silent. When the ocean heats up, it's not just a sign of climate change, it's the beginning of war. The sea doesn't get angry by accident. It retaliates because it's been violated, exploited, and disrespected. From deep within, storms are born not to warn, but to destroy. Winds rise, clouds gather, and the world watches unprepared, arrogant, unchanged. Storms aren't just weather, they're retribution. They rise not because of chaos, but because of order violated. And when they strike, they don't ask who you are, they just sweep clean. That's not nature's cruelty, that's its justice. We call superstorms natural disasters, but in truth, many are man-made. From overbuilt coasts to greenhouse gases, we've created the monsters ourselves. A storm is not just water and wind, it's decades of recklessness condensed into one brutal reckoning. Governments know, scientists warn, yet action comes too late always. Storms don't need passports, they don't respect borders. They hit where it hurts most, where pride blinds preparation. And every time we pretend it's a surprise. The real disaster isn't the wind, it's our refusal to change. Nature doesn't escalate, we provoke, and then we plead when it's already too late. We build cities, we construct infrastructure, we trust radar and forecasts. But look again, Tacloban, New Orleans, Irrawaddy all fell. The question isn't how strong the storm is. The real question is, how naive are we? Oceans aren't just scenic views. They're death machines we've helped engineer. And when they ignite, no country is exempt. Not the rich, not the prepared. No one. Nature does not negotiate. It doesn't care if your nation has satellites or a navy. It cares only about balance. And when balance is broken, storms restore it with brute force. Bhola 1970. Death didn't come from the storm, it came from silence. Bhola is the proof that mass death doesn't always need bombs. One of the deadliest storms in history wasn't horrifying because of its wind, it was horrifying because of the silence. Warnings were available, but politics won. India knew. They could have warned Pakistan. They chose not to. 500,000 people died because of a decision not made. Bhola wasn't just a storm, it was a genocide of neglect. A quiet murder committed by bureaucracy and borders disguised as diplomacy. This wasn't a natural disaster. It was political inaction with a death toll. Waves as high as 10 meters struck the Ganges Delta, not because nature was cruel, but because systems failed. Rice fields vanished, villages disappeared, weather stations were destroyed. Over 46,000 fishermen drowned overnight. Hundreds of islands were wiped off the map in hours. And all of this happened without a single official alert from across the border. Bhola wasn't merely environmental, it was human. A failure of solidarity, a collapse of responsibility. The kind of horror that makes you wonder in a connected world, how many more will die because leaders stay silent? Bhola came and went. The world moved on. But for Bangladesh, it was a breaking point. The storm didn't just destroy homes, it dismantled a country's faith in its future. What followed was war, division, and eventually independence. If Bhola taught us anything, it's this silence kills. Not the kind you hear in cemeteries, but the kind that rots in conference rooms. Storms will come, but whether people live or die depends on who picks up the phone and who doesn't. Nature may kill hundreds, but in Bhola, it was humanity that killed hundreds of thousands. Nina 1975. When the dam breaks, so does human pride. Nina wasn't the fastest or strongest storm, but it was one of the deadliest. 1/600 mm of rain in just 3 days. Not rainfall execution. Daylight disappeared. Birds fell mid-flight. Lands vanished under waves of mud. And then the unthinkable, the Bangkiao Dam, China's pride collapsed. Not from wind, but from human arrogance. A dam meant to protect became a death sentence. Nearly 10 billion cubic meters of water exploded through the countryside. Dozens of other dams failed like dominoes. The storm didn't kill alone. Our engineering helped. Our ego paved the way. Bangqiao was hailed as a miracle of Chinese engineering, but miracles don't hold under pressure. They shatter. Villages were wiped off the map. More than 229,000 people died, but the world didn't know. For decades, this tragedy was hidden, covered up, silenced. There were no headlines, no accountability, just death and denial. The dam didn't just collapse physically. It symbolized the collapse of truth. Technology cannot protect a government unwilling to face consequences. The water destroyed land. The secrecy destroyed trust. The lesson storms are inevitable. Cover-ups are unforgivable. Nina's death toll wasn't caused by the wind. It was compounded by censorship. There was time, there were warnings, but officials chose delay and deceit. And when the water came, it carried away more than bodies, it washed away credibility. Nina exposed a truth every government must hear: if you silence nature's warnings, you inherit the screams of the dead. Haiyan 2013. When nature shattered our illusion of control. Haiyan didn't arrive, it attacked. Winds reaching 370 km/h faster than a jet plane sliced through the Philippines. Tacloban wasn't destroyed, it was erased. Buildings crumbled. Families were swept into black water. Streets became rivers of debris. And all of it happened in hours. No time for evacuation, no time for goodbye. The storm didn't knock. It barged in and took everything. Not because we didn't see it coming, but because we thought we could handle it. Haiyan was not a test, it was a verdict. 7,000 confirmed dead, but many believe the real toll is far higher. Remote villages vanished without a trace. Bodies were never found. Children cried beside corpses. Survivors rummaged through ruins hoping to find a photo, a shoe, anything human. Haiyan exposed a brutal truth. We have satellites, forecasts, global alerts, yet still fail to act. It wasn't a lack of information. It was a lack of urgency. And that delay turned warnings into funerals. We think we're prepared. But preparation without execution is a lie. Rescue teams arrived late. Supplies were slow. The government hesitated. And those in need were left to rot in collapsed homes. Haiyan's legacy isn't just destruction, it's a mirror. It showed us what really breaks in a storm, not just buildings, but systems. The next time you hear Category 5, don't think wind. Think accountability. Think of the people who died waiting. And ask yourself, will we still pretend next time? Or will Haiyan remain just another tragedy we failed to learn from? Nargis 2008. When governments fall asleep, the people never wake up. Nargis didn't strike without warning. Satellites tracked it. Meteorologists knew. But the Myanmar government didn't listen. Didn't prepare, didn't care. When the cyclone hit the Irrawaddy Delta, people were asleep. Literally. No sirens, no alerts, just wind, rain, and then darkness. Whole villages vanished before dawn. Not because of nature, but because of silence. Bureaucratic apathy killed more than the winds ever could. Nargis wasn't a disaster, it was an indictment. Over 90,000 people died. 50,000 more disappeared. Bodies floated alongside animals in dark, polluted water. The city of Labuda was annihilated. Bamboo homes snapped like twigs. Relief boats arrived too late. Rescue teams were too few. Survivors clung to wreckage. Others drowned in waiting. Myanmar became an island of death. Not because it lacked time, but because it lacked leadership. Nargis didn't just drown lives, it drowned a nation's legitimacy. And no amount of propaganda could hide that. Nargis taught the ugliest truth. A regime that fears transparency is more dangerous than any storm. The global community only learned of the disaster when corpses washed up on distant shores, and by then it was history. Nature brought the flood, but denial and delay built the dam that broke hearts. If a nation cannot warn its people, it does not deserve them. Disaster may be natural, but neglect is always man-made. Odisha, 1999, when land couldn't save the people and people couldn't save each other. Odisha's cyclone wasn't a storm. It was a siege. Winds blew at 260 km/h. Tides surged 6.7 meters inland. Coastal villages were flattened. Roads disappeared. Communications vanished. There were no helicopters, no evacuations. Just millions trapped cold, hungry, forgotten. They waited on rooftops, on treetops, in silence. The land beneath them was gone. The government above them was absent, and nature made no exceptions. It didn't care who prayed, it swallowed everything. More than 10,000 people died. Over 30,000 were stranded clinging to coconut trees, power poles hope. Food spoiled. Water ran out. Some drank floodwater to survive. Others simply lay down and gave up. The destruction was not measured in dollars but in despair. A country with centuries of cyclone history had no defense. It was not caught off guard. It was caught off balance between knowledge and inaction. The storm exposed every weakness, and every delay became a death. Odisha taught one thing: nature's fury cannot be bribed. No government can plead with wind. Only preparation matters. Only urgency saves lives. A nation that doesn't invest in warnings will bury its own people, and a population that doesn't demand change will suffer again. Disasters don't repeat. Mistakes do. And if we keep making the same one, storms like Odisha will not be the exception. They'll be the norm. Katrina 2005. When the American dream drowned in its own pride, Katrina was supposed to be manageable. But when New Orleans flooded, the world saw the truth. The world's richest country couldn't save its poor. Over 1,300 dead. Mostly black. Mostly poor. Abandoned in their own homes. Some trapped in attics. Others clung to rooftops waving for helicopters that never came. FEMA stalled. Local officials panicked. And a city drowned not just in water but in shame. Katrina wasn't nature's failure, it was America's. 36 tornadoes. Over 1 million acres of forest lost. Oil rigs and refineries destroyed. Total cost $125 billion. But the greatest loss was dignity. The myth of preparedness collapsed. The illusion of equality shattered. Katrina revealed a bitter reality: disaster response is political. Who gets help and who dies waiting depends on income, color, and zip code. The water didn't discriminate, but the rescue effort did. Katrina turned the American dream into a soaked, shivering nightmare. The real message of Katrina: that wealth cannot shield arrogance, that technology without urgency is worthless, that a nation isn't judged by how it avoids disaster, but by how it protects its most vulnerable. Katrina was not just a storm, it was a reckoning, a reminder that pride comes before the flood. And if a country like the US can fall so hard, then no nation is truly safe. Mitch, 1998. When the sky didn't rage, it wiped the map. Mitch didn't rush in. It crept, absorbing moisture, feeding on silence. Then it unleashed over 1,900 millimeters of rain on Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. Villages drowned. Mountains collapsed. Homes vanished. Entire communities were swallowed by rivers of mud. This wasn't a storm. It was a purge. Not just of buildings, but of history. Maps had to be redrawn, names erased. And in the mud, no one knew who was missing because everything was. More than 11,000 dead. 11,000 more never found. 1.5 million left homeless. Mines from past wars were unearthed and scattered. Even after the rain stopped, death continued. Disease, starvation, displacement. Children walked barefoot through minefields. Mitch didn't just destroy the present, it contaminated the future. And worse, it did it slowly. Every day brought more dead, more despair. No storm in memory left wounds this deep. Mitch taught us that not all disasters strike fast. Some bleed you slowly, some paralyze. Governments had time but no plan. Warnings came but no response. Mitch revealed the deadliest enemy is hesitation, the refusal to act. And when inaction meets nature's wrath, it doesn't just cost lives, it erases entire generations. Phong, 1881. The forgotten disaster is the most dangerous one. October 8, 1881. A super typhoon struck Haiyan, Vietnam. It killed 300,000 people. Yes, 300,000. But no one remembers. No textbooks, no memorials, no national conversation. NBC ranked it among the top 10 deadliest storms in history. Yet in Vietnam, it's a ghost. A mass death erased from memory. But forgetting doesn't protect us. It makes us vulnerable, because what we fail to remember, we're doomed to repeat. The typhoon obliterated Haiyan and its surroundings. Eyewitness accounts spoke of entire towns disappearing under violent waves. But modern Vietnam has almost no official records. This isn't just a historical oversight, it's a national blind spot. If we don't acknowledge past trauma, we leave ourselves exposed. Phong, 1881 wasn't just a catastrophe, it was a warning, and we've ignored it for more than a century. If we had remembered Phong 1881, maybe our disaster systems would have evolved sooner. Maybe coastal defenses would have been stronger. Maybe public awareness wouldn't be so fatalistically passive. But we forgot. We erased our own tragedy. And when a nation deletes its history, it signs up to relive it. The sea has no memory. But we do. Or we should. Disasters don't choose us. We choose how we die. Everything you've read isn't just statistics. It's blood. It's warning. It's prophecy. Bhola, Nina, Haiyan, Mitch, Nargis. These weren't accidents. They were mirrors. And in them we see ourselves arrogant, lazy, numb, and slow. Storms don't kill. Complacency does. Our belief in control is the most dangerous illusion. Nature isn't cruel. It's balanced. And when we disrupt that balance, we pay sometimes with entire cities. Disaster isn't a weather problem. It's a human one. Bhola died in silence. Nina in secrecy. Haiyan in delay. Mitch in neglect. Nargis in betrayal. Phong in forgetfulness. The question is not, will it happen again? It's, will we still pretend we didn't know? Because if we keep doing nothing, storms won't need names anymore. They'll just become routine. To survive this century, we need more than apps and radars. We need courage, urgency, memory. Every crisis is a chance to choose differently. But so far, we've chosen death by inaction. The next storm won't wait for your permission, and it won't care what nation you live in. So decide, now will you learn from the dead or become one of them? We don't die because of the storm. We die because we think we won't. History has screamed through Bhola, Nina, Haiyan, Mitch, and even Phong 1881, yet humanity still chooses to cover its ears. Science is a weapon, but awareness is the armor. If we keep treating natural disasters as someone else's problem somewhere else, next time your name might be on the casualty list. Nature doesn't need a reason to strike, but we always have a reason to act first. The only question left is, will you learn from death or wait until you become part of it?